It's a fact that all of you will die at one point in your life, right? Now, most of you would prefer to die without pain, am I right? Alright, this leads me to my main topic, euthanasia. The Dictionary.com definition is the act of putting to death painlessly or allowing to die as by withholding extreme medical measures a person or animal suffering from an incurable, especially a painful disease or condition. Now, my claim is that euthanasia has positive effects for society. I have three secondary claims. The first being euthanasia helps those with terminally ill diseases. My second, terminal patients use healthcare funds that can be used for other means. And euthanasia benefits families. Alright, my first secondary claim is that euthanasia helps suffering patients. Without euthanasia, patients would live with tremendous pain and wouldn't be able to alleviate it. Now, most patients that are terminally ill, they lose their autonomy, they can't function for themselves, can't do much for themselves. They can't participate in any enjoyable activities anymore, and they lose their dignity. In Oregon, the only state in the United States that allows euthanasia, a study by the Patients' Right Council shows that 91.2% of euthanized patients want to be killed because of loss of autonomy, and 88.1% want to be euthanized because they can no longer participate in enjoyable activities, and 84.1% want to be euthanized because they lose their dignity. Also, many patients don't want to burden their families and loved ones, and so 35.3% want to die because of that fact. My second secondary claim is that terminal patients use healthcare funds that can be used for other means. $50,000 to $100,000 are used to keep one terminally ill patient alive only a couple of months. In 2008 alone, $50 billion were used to sustain terminally ill patients the last 2 months of their life. It can cost up to $10,000 a day to keep a patient in intensive care. And also, 20 to 30% of all operations performed on terminally ill patients had no medical benefits to them whatsoever. Alright, my third secondary claim is that euthanasia benefits families. Now, most of you, if you were asked whether you want to say goodbye to a loved one or just let them die on their own without knowing when they're going to pass, you would choose to say goodbye. Now, one such story is the story of baby Joseph. Baby Joseph was said to have his life support pulled in London, England, October of last year, but was not allowed to because of change in hospital policy. He was diagnosed with a deadly disease with a 0% chance of survival. His sister recently died of the same disease. Now, his family wanted life support pulled so that they could take him home and they could say goodbye to him. But they were not allowed this because of the fact that the hospital changed their policy. This just exemplifies one instance in which a family wants to say goodbye to their loved ones. Another instance in which, another fact is that when surveyed, people more often than not are for physician-assisted suicide or euthanasia. According to the Associated Press in the United States, 48% against 44% are for euthanasia, and according to CBS News, 56 to 37 are for euthanasia. This just exemplifies the want to end suffering for loved ones. In conclusion, euthanasia has positive benefits for society. It helps terminally ill patients who no longer want to deal with pain. It helps save money to be used for other things, and it also helps families.
All right, the structural stuff is pretty solid. The claim is clear. You have a good layout of what the supporting points are going to be. Your internal signposting is all very explicit as you're getting to each of those points. On the first point, I think you've got some big presuppositions made here. For instance, that there aren't any alternatives to the pain and suffering that people have, that there's no way that they can survive with dignity. I think you need to talk about this. The proof that you have on this point ends up coming from the desire of people in Oregon who have sought euthanasia and what their motivations for doing so are, but that represents the people who are in that particular situation. How typical is that? I don't know even if those are realistic circumstances that those folks see, but they definitely are reporting their own reason for doing that, and I thought that the information was useful. I'm just not sure how generalizable it is. The second point, dealing with cost issues, again, I think there's a presupposition here that people can't refuse medical treatment. You make it sound like people are obligated to lay in hospitals for months at a time, and I'm not sure that that's the case. Anybody can refuse medical treatment. That's not the same thing as actively giving somebody, the boot, as they say. And some of those medical treatments, for instance, that aren't doing any life-saving, that have high costs, those are not obligatory. The pain medication might be the one thing that would be something that everybody would say is necessary, but you don't isolate those costs. It sounds like you're talking about somebody who is in a coma and they're being sustained at the end, or they're unable to continue. DNRs and living wills and the right to refuse treatment are fairly standard kinds of things. I'm not sure that you're arguing for the same thing in this situation that you are on the first point. All right. Like I said, I thought that your proof on the first point was a little weak, a little bit stronger on the second and the third. Your energy level's a little bit low key, so let's pick it up a bit. All right. Thank you.